Magnificent morning, awesome afternoon, and wonderful evening. This is Carla from MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And as you can see, I have some oldies but goodies. I have Jeff here and I have Jeanne. And I have a new person. I think we're going by Nadim to call him, but he is Muhammad Nadim Aslam. And like always, everyone will give you a short invitation and introduction. And we're talking about the new year, what to expect. The new year, in my mind, is going to be a great year. And it's how we set our mindset that makes the year either good or bad. If we decide it's going to be good, we can make it good just by how we are thinking. And having said that, Jeanne, I'm so happy to have you back. I am going to pick on you.
Okay.
Now, we haven't seen her for a while because she's been supposedly teaching school and spent some time in a junior high, and that doesn't necessarily mean that she's teaching, but she's learning from the kids a great deal. So I hope she remembers what the show is all about.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the show, Carla. Yeah, talking to adults is always a treat. Yeah, it's like when my kid was little and you would see somebody that was, taller than 4 feet, you'd go, "Oh, big people talk."
I am not seeing this on. Oh, there you are. Good. Go ahead, Jeanne. We don't.
All right. Well, I wanted to kick us off with a couple of quotes. One from Alex Morit: "New year, a new chapter, new verse, or just the same old story. Ultimately, we write it. The choice is ours." And then a great one from Abraham Lincoln: "Always bear in mind that your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other." And, I liked what you said, Carla, about making the choices, which fits with the quotes. The way that we typically try to set goals for a new year, I think we start off with huge ideas. I call them 35,000-foot goals. Yeah, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. I'm going to go back to college. We come up with really big statements and we're proud of them. And God love us, we're proud of them. But in reality, it's the little choices that make the difference. It's the little things, the things like I might choose to cut back on the amount of bread that I eat. That'll make more of a difference than saying I'm going to lose a bunch of weight, or I'm going to break this down and I'm going to lose 2 pounds a week. So it's attainable goals. And that's what I like to talk to people about, is looking for those attainable goals, because the worst thing we can do is overwhelm ourselves from the get-go. And step one is overwhelm. You're never going to be able to recover from that. How does that sound with you, Jeff?
It resonates. For me, when I look at a new year, depending upon the year I'm going into, one of the words I think about is resolve. And for me, resolve is an is when you make you take a firm decision and you decide to do something or not to do something, because it's do not, there is no try. And so, we could always set goals, but we could also decide, okay, these are things I will do and these are things I will just not do. And so my first step is to identify what I want to resolve going into the new year. And then I think about renew. I give myself the opportunity to refresh and start the new year with a fresh perspective and renewed energy, which leads me to a celebration. Because when I have resolve and renewal, I can then celebrate that moment and mark it. It doesn't necessarily have to be around many people. Usually I will celebrate by myself or with a close family. But it marks an occasion, it marks a moment. And what I've discovered over time is that, living in the moment and living in the state of now and living in the flow, it is keeping yourself in flow, that where the magic is. Because when we're in flow, then you're able to make real-time decisions determining what you want to do. You learn not to try. I gave up the word try in 2021, and you either are doing things or not doing things. And when you take an active position in where you go, you will get there. And that's how it works. We may have obstacles. You stay determined, you can make it happen. And so for me, every day is a miracle. Every day is a chance to make a difference. And for that matter, every day is the start of a new year for me. So while we may look at a Julian calendar and say, okay, well, this marks the start of a new year because it is, I've learned to appreciate each and every moment we have and understand this moment's not the moment before, but now I'm in another moment. And so when we live in the state of now, magic will happen. We can manifest our destiny and allow ourselves to celebrate our achievements at any moment in time and learn to appreciate those around us and understand that we are here to serve and we are present, hopefully, with us together. So when I look at a date like a new year coming or a new school year, because I somehow get more renewal when a school year starts for some reason, even though it's been many years since I've been in school. But I go introspective and I look at who I am and who I want to be. And I don't have the same feelings going into a new year. When I look at the new year stuff, for me, it's like it's projects I carry with me, objectives. When I look at a school year, I look at myself individually, like, what did I do during my summer vacation? How do I explain myself to others? And it's like, but that's, so for me, like December is different than September, but we're both
16
celebrating.
Years of training we had.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Nadeem, you're in Pakistan, and how do you look at the new year and setting yourself up for success, if you will?
Yes, Jenny. For you see, everybody talk about New Year goals and everything. You told us that we have to make some goals, bigger goals, so that we can achieve them in New Year. But in my perspective, I will second Mr. Jeff that why we are going to make goals for every New Year? Why we are not going to make the goals every day? Every day we have to push. Every day live our moment. Why we are not setting the goals every day? So of course we can. If somebody is setting the goals every year, if he is not going to do it, he will not going to do it in one day or in 1 year. So in my perspective, we should set the goals every day. We should achieve them every day. And for New Year, besides taking long goals, we should take smart steps towards the big goal. For example, we should break down our steps to achieve those big goals so that we can reach to that goal. So that's my perspective. And also for New Year, for my perspective is that I want to be something that I can give return to the society. So this is my objective for 2026.
That's great. One of the things that I work with lately with the junior high kids, but when I work with my clients and they give me a lofty goal, I ask them, how are you going to do that? And the idea is I want to get them to break it down. I work with the philosophy of you put one foot in front of the other, you take one step at a time. And so I'm always asking, how are you going to do that? Is this a 1 year goal? Is it a 6 month goal? Is it a 1 month goal? Then how are you going to get there? And then you can look at the 1 month goals and go, now, how are you going to get there? So that we can break it down. So you have all the way down to daily goals. Because
Yes.
if you're going to change a habit, you have to do that every day. You can't look at it and say, yeah, I might do this next week. I mean, if I did that a long time ago, my chocoholic monster would have been tamed long before now.
Yeah. You see, with this attitude, we will not achieve our goals. If we say that I will do it next week, or we will postpone this thing to other day. So we need to set our goals every day, and we have to achieve them. We have to meet them if we want to stay successful.
And I have a goal that I always bring up, and this one's for you, Jeff. My goal is to learn to relax. It's not try to relax, it's learn to relax. Because I think many of my colleagues and I will gripe about how tired or how overwhelmed or overworked we are about something, and that's our choices. A lot of times it's our choices. And to learn to relax means taking time every day to breathe. So I can tell you, I had a great time with a second grade class I had for a week. They would get all second grade. They're 7 years old. They're just all the way. Two things I showed them when they were buzzing so fast. I told them they had to walk in a straight line, and we got to the playground, and then I would go, see that blue line? Run that whole course. And I'd make them run before they could go off to recess. So they got their energy out. That was one. But the other was we did, I guess it's called fox breathing. Breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4. And for the younger ones, I had them move their hands up so they realized what they were doing. And seeing a bunch of 7-year-olds doing deep breathing exercises was one way for me to relax, but they became much better behaved and much easier to be able to teach, because we don't teach people to breathe correctly. So why not start really young? So one of those daily goals for me is to take 5 minutes to do deep breathing.
I think deep breathing combined with setting intention to relax and taking time to be for yourself, and the deep breathing in your case helps bring forth self-love, right? And puts aside time for you, because in every episode of everything we do, you have people need to remember they matter also. And so behind me is a photograph I took several years ago at 4:14 in the morning when I witnessed the miracle of the Milky Way rising in a location where I could actually see the delineation between darkness and light and capture this picture. And actually that behind me is nothing but planetary light and starlight. There's no other light sources for hundreds of miles behind me. And I was able to capture the reflections of the stars in the sky in the ocean. And so I've run retreats to help people find themselves again. And I use the Milky Way and the new moon as a way to help remind people not only to relax through deep breathing and through rethinking how they are, but also to just look up and appreciate the fact that we all are made but of cosmic dust. And that when we can appreciate the perspective of where we are, and the fact that on a night like I photographed this picture, there's light that's literally 8 billion years old coming together with light that's 3 seconds old, that it's coming together all at once. And what we're seeing is this tapestry of colors and light from all over the world. And this is just one galaxy that has 500 billion 500 billion stars. So there's a lot of exoplanets here. There's a lot, and that's just one galaxy, right, that we're looking into, really. The point is that if I'm looking to relax, I've set my intention to be under the night sky and to find my place to just take it in and to breathe with it. And I've witnessed people who came from all over the world, very hectic, very driven by time. And by the time they left, they forgot what time they were in, because they were more in sync with each other and themselves. And all of a sudden, space and time came together. And then, I've done I've hosted many star meditations where I ask people to close their eyes and to imagine, pick a star that they saw and bring it into themselves and to hold on to it and be amazed what happens, how people's patterns shift, how their voice changes. And I have taken many photographs of people brought to these meditations where they're all sleeping, yet they insisted they were awake. And I shared with, maybe they were transporting through the galaxies while they were meditating, but visually they were all sleeping. And so for me, when you get to deep breathing and you can bring this type of perspective to young kids, there's hope that will understand our values, and that will understand that no matter who you are, no matter what we do, we all share the same space. We all share some basic values that make us part of these experiences. And so, for the new year ahead, my goal is to see more night skies, to be outdoors in locations where there's no light pollution, which is becoming fewer and fewer in the world, but to find places where I could share the magnificent magic of the universe with people, whether they appreciate it or not, because I promise you, if they make the effort to be there with me, but before they leave, they will appreciate it, and they'll wonder why they haven't witnessed the night sky before. And then that combines with waking up and watching the magic of the morning sky, and being outdoors during sunset and actually seeing a natural painting that just comes forward every day. They say some of the best things in life are free. These are all things that are free. You just have to keep your eyes and spirit open to receive.
Carla, are you back with us?
Yeah, I have been.
So how do you look at setting yourself up for success in the new year?
I look at it as by the moment. Every moment is important, and we forget that. And we spend so much time saying, oh, I said something to Jeff and it upset him. Or am I going to make Jeanne happy by bringing her back on the show? Instead of looking what we're doing now. Now, I can't say I am totally practiced in this technique. I still worry. I still go through all the junk that everyone else goes through. But I find that when I stay in the moment, I can find the joy in the moment a lot quicker than when I'm worrying about what I said 2 minutes ago, or worried about how it's going to concern someone 2 minutes from now. So, yeah. I mean, we do talk about the day and saying, oh, stay present to the day. But I think we need to also become more concerned about staying present to what is now. And Jeff, I saw your brain beginning to think.
Yes. I
wasn't thinking before.
I wasn't thinking before, clearly.
I'm sorry.
I think there's a lot to be said about living in the now and being present. And it's not that, it's not that the future doesn't exist, but when you shift your perspective in living by the moment, you start to appreciate the magic of everything around you, and you start to notice more miracles. You start to notice things that are happening in real time, and perhaps become more aware of the natural serendipity and synchronicity in our lives and how things are connected, even if we don't think they are. That perhaps it's not a coincidence, perhaps it was an action that was taken. But when we allow ourselves to focus on ourselves and to be in that moment, we set our own flow. There's a lot of folks who will say, we'll go with the flow. And I'm always reminded about a poster I once saw that said, only dead fish go with the flow. So if you choose to flow with the flow, that's on you. But everyone has the power to find their own direction, that strength to be who they want to be. And that comes from acceptance, that comes from being present. It comes from understanding things like worrying is a waste of time. That we can, there's some things in our lives we can control and there are things we cannot. When we let go of the things that are not in our control and we accept ourselves for who we are, as a result, you become quite powerful. And with that, you will choose to do what you wish to do. And with resolve, you will focus on the actions you want to take and can take. And so I believe in nowism. I've run courses and conferences about the state of now. I think that's the only state we have is the moment. That's why when we wake up each morning, I believe that it's another day to make a difference. It's another chance to right a future wrong. And what people seem to forget is tomorrow has no memory of today. Only you do. So you're allowed to give yourself another chance. I don't believe that anyone should be remembered by their worst day in their life. Give ourselves a chance to have a better day. We have to allow it. Rather than, there are times in our lives when we need to be our own best friend rather than our own worst enemy. So acceptance, tolerance, and being able to bring forward that time so that we now are setting our pace and we respect ourselves enough to hear our voice, not to deny our voice, and to allow our passion to come forward. And as Jeanne was saying earlier, it's the little things that matter the most. I mean, in the year of giving or in a time of giving, I always thought that while artificial intelligence, people have different perspectives on it. These days, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I gave a piece of AI code a budget of, I don't know, $25, $50 and said, okay, and tell it to my browser, the things I've been looking at. I will never tell people what I really want as a present, but you have a budget, go out and buy it from me, whatever it is, since it has no shame. It will get me what it thinks that I want, even though I won't tell anyone. And it'll be a gift between the AI and myself. The point is that only your browser sometimes knows what you want more than anyone else, and you not always are going to tell people what the truth is. But that's where you find it's those small things, right? Those little things, and it's whether it's to lose weight or to smile more. If there's a certain taste of something that you like. I mean, I've been on quests. I've outsourced over 127 pounds at one point, and for me, it was depriving myself of a taste. So I've learned to give myself a break, taste the one thing I thought I was missing, and continue with my quest to follow a dietary pattern, but not to deprive myself of things that all of a sudden would trigger me to go off a path I don't want to be on. So for me, it's finding ways to bring the little things into my life, accepting who I am, and being present. And understanding that my sense of now and your sense of now may be different, but we're here occupying the same space. And if I could lead with light and love, stay at a high vibration, things will be better. And that simply shifting from a low vibration existence to a higher vibration existence opens up so many more possibilities for not only personal success, but feelings of the light that will shine through. So, being kind doesn't cost anything. Smiling doesn't cost anything. Being nice doesn't cost anything. It's all how you approach it that matters. So if you decide that you want to have a high vibe existence, go ahead. It is difficult at times to be positive when everyone else is negative. Hold on to the positive because the world needs more light. I believe light will beat darkness any day of the week. But sometimes, as it's been written, you have to sometimes enter the darkness to appreciate the light around you.
It's very true. It's very true. I've talked a lot about understanding that there is darkness and we need to embrace it in the sense that, and I use drawing as an example, Jeff, because you can take a circle that you draw, and with the right shading, you can make it into a sphere. Artists do this all the time. We don't have a 3D real world existence if we don't look at the darkness. And when we make darkness our friend, by that I mean understanding and not just saying no. You might have dark feelings, but understanding that that's a way that you're processing feelings. Something awful might happen, but there's a lesson in there. My poor son grew up with a mother who would say, "Did you learn something?" Every time he got into trouble. When we calmed down, I'd say, "Tell me what the lesson was. What did you learn?" Because that's how we learn. And I think it was Albert Einstein said that something along the lines of, show me somebody who's never made a mistake, and I'll show you somebody who's never tried. Something like that.
Right.
So understanding that we need to embrace that there's something in learning in there, it is important. And that's another reason why I like the one step at a time type of philosophy, because you react to what's going on, but you have a vision of where you're going. So you can deal with now, but say, I'm going someplace. Carla, I saw the hand waving.
And like normal, I was listening and I kind of lost track of my thought. But staying in the now or staying in the moment is extremely important. And we forget that. Life is like a river and it's flowing down the rock. There are rocks and there are smooth points. And every moment, every experience makes us grow and become stronger. It's not that we can't handle that experience. We have just forgotten how to look at life for the moment. And in every experience, there's good or bad. We can either find something good about it or find something bad about it. I woke up to be on a show with a friend at 8 a.m. this morning. Some reason that show didn't happen. And I thought, okay, I can sleep a little more. I can play with the cat. I can take a shower because there'll be time between my show and this show. Or I could say, oh, that guy made me wake up and I'm so miserable because I really didn't want to wake up that early and be upset. But, it's what we decide to think at that very moment that allows us, that shapes our mind. And if we want to shape our mind to be a better world, then we need to shape our mind to see the good and not just the negative or not just the disappointment. Nadim, you've been very quiet. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I will say this whole concept of being negative and positive, it's all depend upon the person's mindset. What mindset I have or you have, it's all depend upon that. For example, one person who throughout the life is living with negative people, and every day he listen about negative thoughts, demotivating quotations for him, then automatically he will think negative. So it's better to be with positive people. If the company with positive people, you take the company with positive people, automatically you will get positivity. So that's what I will say.
And that is true to a point. I mean, I kind of tend to hang around positive people, but I have some friends in my circle who are not always that positive. And I have to laugh. I have a friend, if you said the sky is blue and you looked up and you saw the sky is blue, she would tell me it was green.
Colorblind.
No matter what, she would find the opposite.
We all have one of those in our life.
And we need to decide. I remember, this is a story, quick story. When COVID first hit, I have a friend, actually, a friend who no matter what would tell me all the negative things about COVID, what was happening, and she joined me on the work show. And I finally made the rule, look, 24/7, you can talk about COVID. But let's take 1 hour and not speak about it at all. And if anyone began to speak about COVID on the English show, I would shut them up immediately. Because one, this friend who was with me on the show would start talking about it. And we would never get away from it. But number two, she needed that break. It was so constant. So, yes, Jeanne?
I was gonna say, we all need one of those people in our lives so that we can learn to positively manage how we act and react to something that's not perfect. And I say not perfect because if they're feeling negative and I have one of those friends. I have a couple of those friends, but I've learned over the years, if you want to practice unconditional love, you accept people for who they are. And so for me, it's a way to practice that, to take that deep breath that I was talking about and go, okay, for 2 hours, for half a day, I can deal with this. And, I'm going to grow from this. And I try to find ways that I'm going to grow. That's part of being in the flow as well. Unless you're salmon swimming upstream, you're always going to run into some big waves. It's how you manage those big waves makes a big difference. As a single working mother when my son was younger, and my job was very demanding, and people that I knew would go, how do you do it? And I'd look at them dumbfounded. I had no idea what they were asking. And finally they're like, you do this, you do this, you do this. And then, I was doing volunteer work for the PTA, and I was doing all this kind of stuff around, and I said, I just put one foot in front of the other and I just keep moving forward. And that was the beginning of my one foot in front of the other philosophy. As busy as we can be and as many obstacles as we run into, we keep moving forward. And that's how I want to look at this this new year, is how do I keep moving forward? It's this past year, as many have witnessed to me, has been filled with certain obstacles, that people don't plan on. There's always something up, and there's the great Gilda Radner used to say on Saturday Night Live, if it's not one thing, it's another. And it's very true. If it's not one thing, it's another. How you navigate makes a difference. And if you want to be joyous and you want to have that love and that feeling of oneness, you do it with taking a deep breath and pushing forward. And that's probably what I should put on my wall, is take a deep breath and push forward, because that's one way to manage. And Jeff, you said something important about knowing what you can control and what you can't. And when I was doing crisis management for corporations, that was one of the key questions we would ask as we were putting strategies together. What is it that you can control, and what is it that you can't? So what you can't control, you kind of put to the side, and you make your plans for what you can control. And then you're able to deal with what you can't control in a much more planned and organized manner, if you will. Rather than throwing your hands up and say the sky is falling. because as you can tell by Jeff's picture, the sky never really falls.
No, it doesn't. And in fact, once we start to understand and appreciate there are things that we cannot control, then we can focus on what we can control. And that, my father, shared many lessons with me, although I didn't appreciate that I was learning when he was talking to me. I didn't realize these were lessons to be learned. But the whole idea of worrying is a waste of time. I heard it over and over and over and over again to the point that it was annoying. All right, so Mark Twain wrote, that your parents seem smarter to you as you get older, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that wisdom, right? That in fact, when we can let go of things that we cannot control, whether they're good things or bad things, we can't control those, right? And we focus on the decisions we can make. So again, we move from can't by dropping the T to can. It's like turning something off by when someone says no, it's really an upside down on. So you want to figure out how to turn somebody on when they said no. And so the same thing with worrying. So when we learn to accept we are but who we are, and with that, there are things in the positive constraint that we can do. We can allow ourselves to be happy. We can allow ourselves to take that moment each day to breathe and to be present, and to understand that, yes, taking 3 minutes and doing a micro mini meditation for ourselves is worthwhile. The same way that perhaps you don't realize it, but taking a 15-minute or 10-minute short nap during the day could add hours of productivity to you. At least you have a chance to recharge. And look, if you're having a bad day, go back to sleep, take another shower, do something to reset yourself. I cannot tell you how often I have gone back and restarted my day because I needed to, and that I had a sense of a reawakening. Because we're living in a time now where we wake up and we're up the entire day until we go to sleep, generally speaking, unless you're a baby. Several hundred years ago, people did not live like that. People would be up and go to sleep and be up and go to sleep and up and go to sleep. And we would eat differently and we would live differently. And who's to say the way that a large portion of the world that we know lives is necessarily the body clocks we want to have. So, for me, being present, hearing our voice, allowing ourselves to vibrate, and I say this, with a Tesla, Tesla is famous for many things, but when he said, if you want to understand life, understand vibration, energy, and frequency, and I believe that is true, that when you allow yourself to find the positive, the higher vibration solution to his challenge, and to perhaps be non-confrontational, and allow yourselves to feel the energy in the room and guide you to a solution, it is magical. And when you let your inner voice come forward and speak and guide you, rather than denying yourself the truth, because how often is it that you've been in a situation where you were looking to make a decision is made, and it was bad for you, but you knew better, but you allowed it to happen. Eventually, you learn to stand up for yourself, and you make that choice. And it's like in testing in school, right? Multiple choice questions. Most of the time, the first answer you come to is the right answer. And for those people who change the answer, they usually find that they had it right the first time. It's because there's something intuitive between you and your fingers when you're testing, right? And even if you don't know the answer, you channel the answer to you, and it's magical. So some people will debate, no, I can't channel anything, but go to music. Explain to me how Lennon and McCartney in their early 20s could write songs about being 65, about being 64 with a depth and understanding as if they were 64, right? So there's knowledge that comes across generation to generation that comes from a collective, whether we accept it or not, but it is present. And to allow ourselves to connect to that flow, to be in the magic of the moment, is something I look forward to, not every year, but every day. And I think that is the magic, right? That when we can breathe and be present, anything becomes possible because we allow it to be.
One of the things that I had up on my classroom when I was working with the middle schoolers was a little poster I made that said, when we make a mistake, there's magic. Not only do you learn from the mistake, but it allows your brain to gain new neural pathways. And that's where the magic lies.
Thank you. I mean, by the way, beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and it was amazing when I could tell the kids that were going to be science minded, because they go, what? Neural what? And then they would get amazed. The other thing that I tell every class that I stand in front of, I tell them that I'm going to give them the one word magic, the magic one word to make school easier and more effective for them. And I play with them until they finally go, what's the word? What's the word? And it's practice. And they look at me like, what? I go, well, how many of you guys think the football players go out and just play like that? They practice every day, sometimes 8, 9, 10 hours. When you're in school, when you're doing classwork, it's practice. When you're doing homework, it's practice. When you're doing your 20 minutes of reading, it's practice. Everything you do is practice. It makes it much easier if you practice now. And so the watchwords that I have are magic and practice. Which kind of goes with your being in the now and being in the flow.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, practice makes man perfect. Well said, Jenny. So for worrying about things, what I can add furthermore that when I was doing a job in Hawaii recently last year, so there was a new project. So I have to overcome one new project. And at that time, I was not comfortable that project. And around 1 week or 2 weeks, I was just worrying around that how I will going to do this project. I didn't start it even. So at the second week, when I analyzed that what's been going on, what is wrong with me, why I'm not going to start this thing. If I'm not going to start it, it will not happen, anything. So after third week, when I started, then everything just placed in the part. So everything just completed on on time. So I will agree on this point of view that we should stop worrying and we should act, and we should act now.
That's a good point. That goes along with as Jeff said earlier, taking try out of your vocabulary. You have to do something.
Yes.
I had a therapist once who did a great illustration of that. She took her shoe off and put it in the middle of the room and looked at all of us in the circle and said, try to move the shoe. And we all looked at her kind of dumbfounded, of course, because you can't try to move it. You either move it or you don't move it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I often, I often bring that up when I'm doing a talk about it. It's like, change how you look at it. I'm going to try. That's a cop out. You need to either do it or not do it. So the only person I accept the I'm going to try is my 3-year-old grandson, because he doesn't understand that yet. He doesn't know what try is. He just does it, but he says, I'll try. I'll let him get away with it. But the rest of us, and I catch myself saying it all the time, I'm going to try to get this done. Nope. You got to do it or you got to not do it. And it's okay.
Right. And I think if you set the intention for me, what I associated with was that trying was I was sharing my intention, but I can do things and set the intention without trying to do it. And so, because for me, it also became an excuse why something didn't happen. Well, I tried. Well, sure, but you failed. And by the way, the thing about failure, I mean, look, philosophically to me, when we're successful at doing something, we don't always know why we're successful. We think we understand, but we don't know. But when we fail, so many opportunities to learn. And for me, when I asked how I define failure to me is not learning from failure. That's failure. When you refuse to learn from why you failed, that's the only failure I see. So I've often been working with startups, my own and others, and not every startup turns into a success, but I could tell you from my own 27 years of working with people in startup world that sometimes someone's first failure turns into literally a multi-billion dollar company 2 iterations later. That people learn from that, and that I've seen amazing companies born from people who quote failed, and it wasn't that they failed, it's just it didn't congeal at a time frame that was worthwhile. And your 3-year-old grandson, I bet you that he's doing, not trying, that he doesn't understand the word try even, because at 3, how do you know, right? And so
Exactly.
I believe he is in fact doing, and that trying is perhaps a metaphor for something else, but he has the intention.
Well, he hears us use the word. So
Right, but he has set the intention to do. I don't believe a
yeah.
3-year-old knows how to try yet.
No, 10 minutes with him and you'll know that he never tries anything. He
Right,
just,
it's right. So it's a use of language, but his intention is positive and to accomplish.
But that's the intention of all of us. And then we're told, oh, you didn't do it right. You failed. And the thing is, failure is only the steps to learning. It was Thomas Edison who stuck with the light bulb. And he says, I never failed. I took 10,000 tries to make it right.
well, I think part of that, Carla, and it fits with planning for the new year, is there's a point where we need to change how we think of what we've been taught as children. When we were told we failed as children, we took that as, oh, that's the stab to the heart, and it was terrible. But as an adult, you can reframe that, thinking of that scene or something in your mind and go, wait a second, yeah, that didn't work, but here's what I did later. I recall, Jeff probably doesn't remember this, but I used to be a PR rep for a company that we worked with Jeff on more than 20 years ago. And the first time I wrote a press release for them, it was very difficult because it was extremely technical, but I was trying to make it for a more general audience. And the director of marketing was like, "You got this all wrong." And I was like,
Oops.
"Okay." Pretty much, you're like, oh, you turn red, your head goes down. You're like, okay, I'll try again. But I said this time, I go, what did I get wrong? Tell me what. And we went through it, and he came to the realization that it wasn't so much wrong. It was that I was trying to simplify, and I was using the wrong metaphors for him. So we've worked it out, and we got good publicity for it, but it took me reframing that failure from where, when everybody who's heard me before knows that I had nuns for teachers when I was younger. And, they were very strict. And if you did something wrong, you were made to feel really bad about it. Hopefully that's all changed now. But as a young adult, when somebody said I got it wrong, I went right to that feeling of shame and thought I just blown the world. I'm going to die and nobody's going to know me. And the difference was reframing it in this moment to say, okay, explain to me what's wrong. And then we came to a meeting of the minds and we compromised, something I'd like to see more of in this world. The meeting of the minds, that is. And I think we need to reframe how we look at mistakes, Carla. I think that would be a great, global effort to change how we make mistakes from being a terrible thing to, wow, you're growing. It's a way to learn. You're doing it. You're trying. You've got, that's where you use the word try. When you do something and it doesn't quite work, I tried. Now let's do it differently.
I teach on the English show, to get rid of try. And I actually have a little process that I go through with them about the word try. Because you can't try to put your hand on your head. But they do it. And I said, try to put your hand on the head, and they do it. And we do it 3 times. And then I say to them, did you try or did you do it? Well, I did it. And that's what life is about. Even if you're pushing a chair, a baby pushing a chair, it may only be an inch in the beginning, even less than an inch. But he has done it. It doesn't matter how much he has done. The fact that he has done it. A baby child learning to talk, you start with ma, 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 ma. Nothing else. But is he trying to do it or is he doing it? He's doing it. And it goes all back to everything you do. If you pick up, if you're just learning to use your hand and you pick up the phone for the first time, did you try to do it or did you do it? You did it. And I teach this all the time on the English show. You're not trying, you are doing. Okay, you can only say hello today. Great, you said hello. We'll come back to you the next day and see if you can say hello, Carla. But you're doing it. And then they come and they say, I cannot speak English. And they say it beautifully. And I said, well, tell me something. What language did you tell me that in? In English. Did you make any mistakes? No. You're speaking English.
Yes,
People don't realize what they're doing before they do it. You know, you just do it. Like Nike said.
I would yeah, I would like to add one point here that you will listen and you will heard everything about success. For our children, we will tell them that if you do this, you will be successful. If you do that, you will be successful. All the advices we will give them. But nobody is giving them the picture of failure, that how they can handle the failure. So this is the main point. This is the main mistake we are making in our generation, that we are not letting our children to know the failure. What is the failure? So right now, Jeff said that he has around 30 or 35 years of experience and he have faces failures. By experiences, he have faces failures and he understands what failure is and he make opportunities from that. But from the childhood, I'm sure he doesn't know that what failure is. Nobody taught him what is the failure. So it's very important right now to tell our children that to understand the concept of failure and how to deal with it.
Well, that's a good point, Nadim. And I would point to there are various schools of thought and how to raise our kids. I did a lot with sports with my son, and when he didn't win, we talked about good sportsmanship and what you did when you didn't win. And even today, as a young adult, he's really big into American football, and he gets mad when his team loses. And I go, it was a good game. He goes, Mom, you just don't get it. I go, no, obviously you don't remember. And he'd go, yeah, okay, I remember. It's about the game. Yes. And when we played cards, I wasn't the mom that let him win. Yeah, we had to. Yeah, we started with.
My dad would stop playing backgammon with me because he said either play to win or don't play at all.
Yeah,
so I failed at backgammon with my dad because he thought I was letting him win, and he said you play to win. right? And I explained to him that I was thrilled to be playing anything with him, and he said, "If you want to play with me, you play to win, or you're not going to play with me."
Mm. Yeah, I taught my son to play gin, and then whenever we went to a restaurant, I would have a deck of cards. So when we waited, instead of having him, run around and cause trouble, we'd be playing gin, and he would get so mad when I'd beat him, and I'd go, "Hey, it's about strategy. Now let's talk about things you could do." But my point is that everybody has their idea of how to give these lessons. So I think kids are learning. It's just not part of let's say, the formal learning process. But you're right. We have to learn. That goes back to accepting the dark side that we were talking about earlier. You have to know how to win. Have to know how to gracefully lose. And I say gracefully underscored, because there's many lessons in that, in how do you improve your game. I used to golf with my dad. I taught myself to golf, and then I went out and I got lessons in golf, because at the end of my dad's life, that's all he and my mom did was golf. So I'd go home to visit and I'd never see him. So I taught myself to golf so I could go out there, and he would criticize me because I didn't have the right swing or whatever. But what I learned from the game of golf was how to pay attention to myself, my form, because you're not competing with the people you're playing with. You compete with yourself. And that was something that I learned through that sport. And I'd had many great afternoons with my dad, where he could do, I think it was a par 72, and he would be like 76, and I would be 140. I just told him I got better value for each stroke. We found different ways to laugh at each other. But winning and losing is one paradigm, but winning and learning is another.
Yeah. But Jenny, these things should come from educational system, right?
The first person that educates you is your parents. So parents have a big role in that. I would like to think that coaches are teaching this. I would like to think that a lot of teachers are teaching this. I know when I gave a test and somebody didn't do well, I would spend some time and say, what can we do, and work with them. I gave one test to my French class. Nobody got it well. So I went in and I looked, and I was like, oh, okay, there are a couple of things that were misunderstood. So we went over it, and I was like, here's a gimme. We're going to do this test again. This time you can use your notes. And this time, this is what I want. And we went from an average of 70 to an average of 85. So out of 100. So they did much better. So I learned even, and I wanted to show them that there's a way to do better. So yeah, there are things, there are bright spots in the education system around the world where they're learning that. I don't believe education can be all put into a process. It's about the actual moments that you work with the kids. The processes are to make sure that we cover everything, but it's how you approach it that's important.
And all learning happens in the moment. If you tell a kid you can't do this, or you didn't do it right, it's okay, you said it, but you need to work with the child to want to continue attempting to do it. Because there's no way a child will learn, or an adult will learn, if they keep on hearing, oh, you're a dummy, you didn't learn how to do it. You do it by learning. You do it by doing. Not by hearing, oh, you did it wrong, you dummy. Believe it or not, we have been talking for an hour. And I know Jeff needs to go, so I want to start with Jeff. Did you gain anything from this conversation today, and what may it be?
Well, certainly I had an opportunity to meet Nadim. I'm grateful for that. Grateful for the opportunity after many months of seeing Jeanne, and an opportunity to know that we're going into the new year with a positive attitude, and an opportunity to breathe and to be present, and that more than anything else, collectively we are together no matter where we may go, and that we are all in this, in our own flows, how they interconnect, and we are all present as we allow ourselves to be, and that we don't try. We will not try anymore. We will do things, and we will be back next year for another edition of MindPlore. That is my commitment.
MindPlore is over 3 years old now.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I was thinking that myself. Nadim, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would thank to Jeff and Jen, and I would thank them that they gave me the opportunity to talk to them, and especially Jenny that he told us about his educational background and his students, and he's very much in struggle these days to teaching his students, and also for Jeff, his love for photography. I love the photograph behind him, so I'm looking forward to have more meetings with him.
Okay, Jeanne.
Well, this is a good, this is a great discussion and some great insight. And I love the idea of keeping in the flow, because that's where the magic is. Thank you, Jeff. I wrote down resolve, renewal, and celebration, because those are great ways to look at, in my book, to look at what are you going to focus on in the next year. If they fit, if you can look at how, if you can start looking at what we call goals through resolving, renewing, and celebrating, then you can have that kind of magical outlook that is doable. And I also want to keep reminding people to keep putting one foot forward. Have a direction and put one foot forward towards it.
We all learn to walk with baby steps, and we think, oh, I've learned to do this. And with baby steps, you fall. You may fall just standing up, but eventually you stay up and you start moving. And that's what this new year is all about. Moving slowly or moving quickly, it doesn't matter, but to continue moving through life. And if you go with the thought, oh, I am going to accomplish my goals, 10 to 1, you will. It may not be overnight, but it will happen. And with that, we have come to an end of MindPlore. Somehow we'll be back next week. I'm not sure what the topic will be, but I want to thank everyone for being here, especially Jeff and Nadim and Jeanne and whoever is watching. And we're going to wave goodbye and see you in the new year. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
And Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
I need